Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Unusually on a Friday we have Alison McConnell with us, which is absolutely fantastic to have her with us. And unusually any day now, we're never really certain, Alan Ruff's here too. Wow, great to see you as well, Ruffy.
No, I knew Alison was coming in, so I made an effort.
Yeah, no surprise there. Anyway, great to have the two guys with us. One guy, one girl, sorry. And you can put your point across to both of them, as well as myself, throughout the next hour. Lots to talk about. Here's a quiz question for you. What do you make of it, Ruffy? How many goals has Ryan Jack scored for Rangers? Give us a guess.
12.
21.
21, okay. Interesting stuff. Give us your thoughts. How many goals has Ryan Jack scored for Rangers? We'll give you the answer at the end of the programme. Simple as that. Hi to everyone who's joined us. Lots of people join us on a regular basis to give us their opinion on football. And if you hit the subscribe button, you can join the football family. It's absolutely free to watch. Simple as that. Okay. The nominees for the Scottish Football Writers Association Manager of the Year have been released, and here's how it all looks as far as the four candidates. We've got Barry Robson, Ange Postecoglou, Stephen Robinson and James McPake, Manager of the Year. So three of them, yeah. Fourth one maybe that's caught me on the hop. Which one am I talking about?
I would think the Aberdeen manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's done incredibly well in there, but it's not, you can't judge him on Manager of the Year and the time that he's been there. You know, there's another two candidates who have been there all year and actually won their division, so I would think these two would be, for me, head and shoulders above the other two.
Yeah, it's a strange decision, but let's go to somebody who now is very close to the Scottish Football Writers Association because she writes on a regular basis. Come on, Ali, explain it to us.
I think it's probably just a measure of a couple of things. One, how well he's done since taking over from Jim Goodwin, but two, I think there's been a real inconsistency of performances elsewhere when you take Celtic and Rangers to an extent out of the equation.
So you're picking a man for the quarter of the season?
We have to say that these are votes. It's not quite one individual. This would be a collection of votes cast across our industry.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a reflection of the fact that I think essentially there's a dearth of maybe genuine candidates at times because so many teams have had sticky points in their season where it's been very inconsistent. Out with, I think, Ange Postecoglou.
It's a good point you make because I think Ange Postecoglou himself highlighted the fact, Ruffy, that even managers staying in the job for longer than 7 or 8 games these days is a record.
Yeah, it certainly is. As I said, my two would be Ange and James McPake. I think McPake is back rightly where he should be. You know, I think he's a tremendous manager. I think they'll add something to that division, when they come in there. And I think James done particularly well. We've had him on the show 2 or 3 times, and unfortunately that bad injury that he had, for where he's come from there to now, well done to him. So that would be the challenger to me to the other winner.
Yeah, okay. The winner will be announced on May 28th in Glasgow. Of course, the members of the press get to invite various guests, footballers, managers, legends, the lot, and they get a table where they invite some of the people that have been good to them over the course of the season, and then they basically pick up the tab, which is great, Ali. Do you feel under any pressure whatsoever from the tab that I picked up last week to what you're going to pick up? Will it be as lavish, Ali? I'm just asking for...
my track record would speak for itself on that point, and it's always a privilege to have a former winner at the table, albeit he's ditching us this season to go on holiday.
Yeah.
But I think it's an enjoyable night. I think that's exactly what it is. It's an opportunity to thank people that have been particularly helpful down throughout the season when we're putting calls into people and we're trying to get the story behind the story. Yeah,
would it be too much to ask because of our other commitments that you may well set aside another night where you could take Ruffy and I out just to kind of compensate? I'm just asking.
This mid-table obscurity, penance to pay.
Yeah, it's just I'm sure your husband would understand. Ruffy and I would be a right good laugh.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant. Yeah. You probably feel guilty we're not there, so you may as well just get it off your chest and say, come on out and we'll just have a freebie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not like a night out.
Yeah, well, apart from that, it's just that uneasy silence as you explain. You know, I'm just going out with Peter and Ruffy to take them out for a meal that they missed the last time. I did actually attend Hugh Keevan's table, I think maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, which was an unusual one because Hugh obviously there, and the other 9 of us just shared one lager, and we just put a straw in, and everybody was allowed a little sook, Ruffy, and then you had to put it down and allow somebody else to use a different straw.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's it. No, sometimes you get invited, and if you're a guest, you know, you haven't the choice, you know, and sometimes you get put at a table that it's not such a great night.
yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any. I'm not even going to argue with you, Ruffy. It's as simple as that.
What he's on holiday.
Exactly. Before we talk about the overall fixtures, James Bisgrove, the CEO of Rangers, the new CEO, has been talking today, and basically he's been outlining a few of his plans for Rangers moving forward. Kerry Pollock was out there at the Rangers training centre.
It's been a busy day here at the Rangers Training Centre. The club's new CEO, James Bisgrove, addressed the media today before he endeavours into one of the club's biggest rebuilds that it's seen. But despite the mammoth challenge ahead, Bisgrove said he's excited about the summer's plans.
It's an exciting one for us. It's an exciting one for us because we've got real confidence in the manager, Michael, the plan that he's presented in terms of the on-the-pitch opportunities, in terms of recruitment, but also some of the off-the-pitch items that we're looking at. So I don't think we underestimate it, I don't think we underplay it, but I think, you know, we're now looking at it with optimism, with excitement, but we're also cognizant that there's a lot of work to do over the next 2-3 months, and the decisions that we take can define the next 2-3 seasons. So no, we're feeling positive, but you know, we're ready to put the work in as well.
One of the big talking points at the press conference this afternoon was that will the new chief exec reallocate the Old Firm fans back into Ibrox come next season? And his answer was very simple. There'll definitely be some discussions going on throughout the summer with those concerned.
It's definitely an area we're going to look at, and we're going to have dialogue with all the right stakeholders, all the right authorities, be that Police Scotland, be that Celtic, and we hear and we recognise all the different viewpoints on that. So yes, absolutely, we're gonna look at that, and then we'll see where those discussions go in terms of next season.
Michael Beale also spoke to the media today and says he's very excited about the summer's recruitment plans and says it won't be far from what the fans are expecting here at Rangers.
I had some guarantees from the board when I came in November, of course, about my ideas for the future. Glad to say that nothing's changed in Douglas and John changing roles, or Stuart leaving and James coming in. If anything, I feel strengthened in their convictions to support me and ultimately support the club going forward. So yeah, it's going to be a big summer for us. It's everything that I think the fans are expecting as well, in terms of they want to see some new players come in, and certainly Nico and Todd have excited them for the future.
Okay, so a lot of Rangers fans will be listening in to what he had to say, Michael Beale, and obviously the proof is in the pudding. He'll have to deliver, and if the Rangers fans are excited by that, then moving forward he'll want a good start as well. Give us your thoughts on what the manager had to say today. What about James Bisgrove, I beg your pardon, Alison? I hope he does not come back after discussions with Celtic, the two of them, and I'm not just isolating one here, whether it's James Bisgrove or whoever's dealing with it at Celtic. I hope they don't come back and say, yep, it's really great, we've had really positive talks and we've decided it's 750. What a great move by everyone. 750 fans will be allowed back in.
Yeah, we know what we want. We know the sensible answer here is to revert back to what it is. But I just wonder now if you can go back. I think there's almost an element of losing face amongst your own support. I think there's a number of fans on both sides who are quite happy with how it is, who are quite content to say we don't let you in and you don't let us in, and stick with the tit for tat. I think the game loses something from it. I think it's diluted because of it. I know a number of players feel that too. I know a number of former players and former managers who also feel that way. But I do wonder if it's a case of just having to have a bit of courage in your own conviction in the face of maybe inviting some criticism from your own supporters.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think as time moves on, Ruffy, and I'm not talking the next couple of years, I think probably 10, 20 years from now, when people look back historically and read these passages of the history at this point, this juncture in the SPFL, the legacy of the people in charge will be clear for everyone to see, in the pettiness that surrounded the last couple of years. And of course, if it does not move forward, here is the line in the sand where they killed this fixture.
Yeah, I agree with Ali 100%. I think they have killed the fixture. I don't think they'll change it. It'll be fan power now. As Ali said, you know, both sets of fans are happy the way it is. That's all their fans in the stadium. It's not a good viewing. You know, we saw the semi-final there. I thought it was a fantastic day, a fantastic advert for both teams. You know, the way they went about in supporting their team. But I think the fan power now will decide. You know, they want all their fans in the stadium.
Yeah, okay. We move on. It's what some people will be used to. They'll be wondering what all the hullabaloo is out, but we'll wait to see exactly what comes in the summer. Don't hold your breath. Ryan Jack signed a new one-year deal at Rangers. And that's 7 seasons. It's hard to imagine that. I think Ryan's had a few injuries, 180 odd appearances plus since signing from Aberdeen. I think he would have liked to have got a run, without some of the injuries that I think curtailed him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's lost quite a chunk of time at points, and I think, you know yourself, it can be very difficult to come back in after that and just sustain a level of performance when you've missed so much. I have to say, I wasn't sure that there would have been another deal. I thought he might have decided to go elsewhere. I think the way the club might be looking to evolve and bring players in, I wonder what his role might be next season. But he's obviously been offered an extra year and taken it, and I'm sure he'll feel that he's still got plenty to offer. And I think his experience could be important if they are bringing in a significant number of players this summer, and Michael Beale was saying there that the fans are going to get what they want. Then you would expect from that there's quite a turnover. I think it would maybe be important to just have some players who have a bit of experience, not just in terms of the football side, but also in an appreciation of the club and the demands that are placed on the club.
Yeah, Michael Beale said that the players who are leaving, all those names will be revealed on Monday. So there might be more than a few, because we can only take the manager at his word. He said there would be about 12. That would be a fair estimate of the new faces.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be far away for that. I mean, obviously every day there's a player getting a mention. As far as Jack's concerned, I think he's a bit player now. I think he'll be used whenever needed. He's not the kind of guy, if you see Rangers winning a game or something, you say, well, he was magnificent. You know, he's not that kind of player. He doesn't like grab the game by a scruff of the neck and be the star man. So he's a workman-like player that you would want about the place if you needed in certain games. So he'll be glad to get another year, but we'll have to wait and see who these players are that are leaving. Yeah,
Hibs against Rangers on the Sunday. What about the Hibs camp? Let's head through to Tranent, of all places, for the Hibs training centre. Adam Binney was there.
Thanks, Peter. I'm at the Hibernian Training Centre this afternoon to speak to manager Lee Johnson as he previews this Sunday's Scottish Premiership clash against Rangers. The match will actually fall on the 7th anniversary of Hibs' famous Scottish Cup 2016 win over this Sunday's opponents. But this match specifically has massive implications too. They're currently just 1 point behind Hearts, who occupy 4th position. But manager Lee Johnson talking about where he thinks his side could finish come the end of the season, admits that 3rd place might just be a bridge too far.
Well, I think we've got ourselves into a position where, like I said, we're fighting for a successful season. You know, and what does that look like? Well, it looks like the opportunity to qualify for Europe for us. I'd love it to have been 3rd and to be 3rd, although we know that's a real long shot now. 4th isn't unrealistic, absolutely, and 5th, if you're a better man, probably, you know, has a good chance.
As the season draws to a close, manager Lee Johnson was reflecting on his first year at Hibs Boss, hoping that there's many more to come.
Dynamic, both at Easter Road and down at HTC. Just yesterday, we was out having a game of, was it Wolf or something? Yeah. Wolf with the Easter Road staff, which was great, celebrating somebody's wedding, which was so those type of things are nice. And I think that bonds the club and the staff.
Yeah, you're doing weddings as well now, Ruffy. To be fair, I think he deserves a bit of credit because, quite simply, he's been written off that many times. It's almost as if, and I'm going to hold my hands up here. It's always as if, can I say we in the media have been waiting and saying, if this game happens the way we think it is, then he's for the off.
Well, that's what it's like in a manager, particularly a big club like Hibs. You know, things weren't going particularly well. There's a sequence of results, but I think you got to give him a bit of slack. Nisbet was out for a wee while. McGeady was injured. Boyle was obviously injured there. 3 massive players. I do think he needs to get the defence a wee bit tighter. And you know, so no, he's went on a wee run now, but he will be judged again by certain amounts of the supporter at the end of the day when they play Hearts, and if they were to slip down to 5th place, I don't think there'll be a lot of supporters too happy about that.
Yeah, I think it's been an odd campaign for him. I think you've seen flashes of Hibs and what he wants to do. There were other points at spell across Christmas when, like what you were saying, you were looking at a really difficult run of games and thinking he might not survive this depending on what he comes out with. I think he's probably done enough this season just to make sure he's got a bit of credit going into the next term. But like you, I think he needs a big performance in the derby games. I think he'll be keen to take something from that last game. You know, it's a fantastic conclusion to the season. Whoever wins that one leaves on a bit of a high, and I think he could do with it. You really could do with claiming a big result in the fixture.
Yeah, if we talk about Celtic and Rangers and what they're doing in signings, Ruffy, I'm more intrigued by the other 3. I want to see what Aberdeen are going to do with Barry Robson, what type of player he wants to sign. I want to see what Lee Johnson's going to do in another transfer window that he's managed to engineer. I want to see, you know, who gets the Hearts job on a permanent basis and what they're going to do, because I don't think we can sustain, you know, time and time again this knockout for Scottish clubs, you know, pre-qualifiers. You need people, and we need them in the group stages to give them that £6 and £7 million hit that really boosts their budget, their finances, their ability to try and strengthen the club and move it forward again.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard Michael Beale saying he's got a budget. You know, we don't know what it is, but I'm sure the other 3 will have a budget. It'll be interesting to see what that budget is and who's got the bigger budget and who starts flexing their muscles. So I think in the close season it'll be interesting for all the supporters at the 3 clubs to see what kind of players they're bringing in and where they're bringing them in from, because I think it's a really important season for the 3 of them. I mean, Aberdeen can't have the start that they had, and neither can Hibs or Hearts, so I think it's quite exciting, you know, if they get the right players in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they are. I mean, Nicky Devlin, we now know, will join Aberdeen, so I don't think that's any great secret now. He'll put pen to paper there, say farewell to his Livingston teammates. That's a good signing. That's the type of player, Ali, the good ones that have played well in Scotland, that the Aberdeens, the Hearts, the Hibs should be looking to cherry pick. Yeah,
without doubt. I think there's no question of that. Aberdeen, I think they'll also lose players. I wonder if they'll hang on to Duke, to Majowski. Leighton Clarkson, does he go back down to Liverpool, or is it another loan? These have been players who have had key roles to play across the course of their season. Finding replacements is not entirely easy. I think both Majowski and Duke have had a wee bit of quality about them. Bringing that like for like in while working within the parameters of your budget is difficult. And I think that's the key, is just to be adventurous in the window, while also trying to bring in players that you think can acclimatise to your dressing room, your way of playing, and come in seamlessly. And I think you make an interesting point about the European qualifiers. I think it can be very harmful, very damaging to the coefficient when you have teams who go in and take a hammering at the very first hurdle and they're out, because that echoes down through the years when you're not picking up points in the way that the coefficient has worked. And we know it's kind of convoluted, it's quite a difficult system to follow, but your points are distributed by the amount of teams that you started off with in qualification. So if you have 5 teams in Europe, whatever points your representative gains is divided by 5, and that coefficient sustains you over the course of the next couple of years. You always want to have access to European competition, so it's important that when they're actually in there, that they're not just in, you know, to take their passport and give their supporters a holiday. They're in to actually have a go at it and to see where they can go within it.
Yeah, there was a couple of years when Rangers were actually propping up the coefficient with their exploits, and then you're looking and you're saying to yourself, well, Celtic need to start picking up wins in Champions League matches. Last year there were times when I thought they let 6 points slip, and then you can't have another Motherwell debacle. That's a surefire certainty. I don't care how they win them, just getting into that seems to be the absolute key. So give us your thoughts. Who would you like to see at your club? How many players do you think they need? We'd love to hear from you. We've got lots of managers and players that will be on here in the next 45 minutes you can listen to, so stick with us here on The Football Show and hit that subscribe button if you can, and don't forget to like and share as well. Tell your friends that we're here. It's absolutely free to watch, and of course you'll get no shortage of opinion. Ruffy and Alison McConnell here with me. Ruffy's going to be back with me tomorrow because obviously Tam McManus is just his final day of his holiday. He's cutting a single and an album now with all his friends from Lynyrd Skynyrd. These boys are absolutely fantastic, Ruffy. I don't know if you've seen the photograph of him. He's on tour with the Beverly Hillbillies, and
that was the first thing that came into mind, was the Beverly Hillbillies. Or the boys at Deliverance.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yes, I think, and these are his best friends. So that gives you an indication. That gives you an indication, Ali, of 6 of the boys that he's with. All of them amazingly share the same name, Billy Bob. So that's fantastic. You have to wait to see who jumps up first when you're buying around, don't you, Ruffy?
Yeah, you certainly do.
Have you seen the picture, Ali? It's a belter, isn't it? It makes Tam look normal, doesn't it? It's fantastic. Anyway, Celtic St Mirren. Celtic back at Celtic Park. First time, of course, since sealing the title against Hearts, and they'll be wanting to bounce back, Ruffy, after that defeat to Rangers.
Yeah, they certainly will. Tomorrow will be a wonderful day for the supporters. This is the first time they've been given the chance to see their team at home. It'll be a wonderful day of celebration, and I think it will continue on the park. Obviously, we all know St Mirren were the team who beat them at Love Street, but I don't think that's going to happen tomorrow. I think the players will be up to impress their supporters for what the service they've given them for the whole year. So I think they'll handle that one quite easily.
Yeah, and of course, with this game in mind, and obviously what happened at the game against Rangers, John Kennedy, who was speaking to the assembled members of the press today, said just even if you drop a few percent, that's when you can see in a big game how you can lose it.
In terms of decision making, in terms of execution, the technical side of the game, we missed too many passes, we made too many bad decisions, as you said, and that led to a lot of turnovers and gave Rangers the opportunities to hit us in counter-attacks and catches in moments we weren't quite organised. So there was certainly a lot to look at in the game, which was as much as a bad result and poor performance. It's good. It's a reminder for us as a group that we constantly got to be on it. You can't drop kind of 10% because we know how much that affects our game. So
yeah, you got to be on it, or you get caught out. And you only have to look at that game that you mentioned there, and Ruffy mentioned against St Mirren, because you make 3 or 4 changes and suddenly St Mirren have a game plan, have a formation, have a way of playing that day, and they were thoroughly deserving of their 2-0 win. Yeah,
back in September, I think that was it was a really low key performance from Celtic that day. They never got going, and credit to St Mirren, they never let them, if I remember correctly. I think Celtic will just look to get back. I think you'll see quite a strong side tomorrow. I think you'll see a side that's probably more in keeping with the team that's delivered the title. I think sometimes there's an inevitable drop-off once the league's been won, that subconsciously, the hard graft of the season's been done. But Ange Postecoglou will know there's a Scottish Cup final to be competed, the option and possibility of going and claiming a domestic treble. I think he'll want them in a particular mindset, and I think last week will have been a wee wake-up call for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Bain signed a new 3-year deal, and he hasn't actually played in over a year for Celtic. He's 31 years of age, and he's got a 3-year deal. If I was Scott tonight, what I would do is, sometimes you can actually put £2 on the European lottery and the main one here in the UK, Ali, and then what to do is just say to your partner, look, let's go out to the bingo and we'll play the bingo, and we might get the 4 corners, a line and a full house.
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. I think I don't think any of us would have anticipated it. I think when you look at at the part he's had to play across recent campaigns. I think he was almost a forgotten man at Celtic. However, it's very interesting that he's been given a long-term deal, and I wonder just what the recruitment is this summer, if there'll be a turnover there in terms of another keeper coming in.
Yeah, that's the type of thing Ruffy would be happy to do. Oh, 3-year deal, Bush, there you are.
Listen, I understand why you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not knocking Scott. Fair play to you.
If he has just signed a 3-year deal, we won't need to win the lottery. Because the 3-year deal is a fantastic deal for him.
Oh yeah, you know all the finances, don't you?
No, I think if you're a player in a team like Celtic and you're getting a 3-year deal, you can safely say you're on a fair whack.
Yeah.
So no, good luck to him. I thought any time he was thrown into the big games, the Rangers games, I think he did particularly well. You know, he is third choice. Siegrist we haven't even seen either. You know, and they've got the big boy we had, the big Irish boy. I don't know where he is, and now he's out on loan to somebody. So they've got 4 goalkeepers there. I keep saying this, I mean, I don't know if you hear it as well. I keep hearing Celtic fans saying they're not 100% with Joe Hart. You know, I don't know where that is, you know, that... in fact, there was somebody said to me that I knew who it was now, but I'm not going to divulge who it is. They thought, you know, but you know, he has made big saves, but I think a player of his quality, that there has been a few errors of judgment as well, and he is getting on in later life, so might just stick with him for another year.
I think he'll be there for another year. I don't think there's two. I think the majority are still with Joe Hart. But as you say, big games, Champions League games, is where you really cut the mustard, where you can make big saves. Now, Ali, do you predict, I don't know how it's going to go over the weekend, do you think there'll be a march on Paisley, you know, with lots of people, you know, basically condemning St Mirren for not supplying a guard of honour? I mean, honestly, I looked at this story and I thought to myself, really? Is that what it's all about? Do Celtic fans crave, or do people like to throw these stupid stories up that they need a clap onto the park for their achievements?
Yeah, I think it's become one of the tedious stories that does
really
it every season. Yeah, I think guards of honour, if you want to do it, fine. Is it a big deal? No, I don't think it matters to anybody.
Is that nonsense?
I don't think anybody really pays too much attention of it. Sometimes on a slow news day, it's nice to have a line. but yeah, I think it's a story we regurgitate every single season.
It really is, isn't it?
But I can't imagine that anybody actually gives 2 hoots about it, to be frank.
Brilliant. And I'm glad you said 2 hoots there. Well done, Ali.
For my manners.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what the St Mirren boss Stephen Robinson had to say today, because we sent our man Patrick Mullen out to Paisley.
I'm at the St Mirren training ground this morning to speak to Stephen Robinson ahead of his side's trip to take on the league champion Celtic. Despite it being a difficult challenge, Robinson does not want his side to sit back but go on the front foot.
And we stay in the game a little bit longer, but we do that being positive. I'm not going to sit back and get beat 1-0. We're not going to sit back and if we get beat 1-0, you know, we've not had a go at it. You know, if we go and have a right go at it and we get beat 3 or 4-0, then so be it. You know, we're going with a positivity.
Stephen Robinson was also nominated for Manager of the Year this morning by the Scottish Writers' Association. That was alongside Ange Postecoglou, Barry Robson and James McPake. Robinson said he was unaware of the nomination, but said he was delighted about the news.
It's tough when you're in the top 6 because you play the other best 5 teams in the league. So sometimes you don't think you're doing quite as well. So we have to remember what a tough season it's been and how well we've done. And obviously nominations like that are great personally, but I feel it's more as a whole that the club's nominated rather than just me.
Yeah, well done to Stephen Robinson. I think he deserves the recognition of it. As we mentioned, for Darren Young at Stirling Albion, James McPake as well. Barry Robson deserves great credit for that short period of time. Maybe not for the entire season, but nevertheless does deserve pat in the back, because Aberdeen's proved to be a difficult job.
You know, if you would, we all talk about what are the credentials for winning the Manager of the Year, and if the credentials for winning the Manager of the Year was being on a very, very low budget, losing all your players and ending up in the top 6, he would win it. you know, hands down. You know, David Martindale might have won it if he had stayed in the top 6, but he never. So I think he would be up there if that was the criteria, but it depends what your criteria is for voting for them.
Yeah, he's managed to unearth some good players. He's not one of those guys at times who thinks I'm going to be Mr. Cautious. He wants him to play in the front foot, and I think the St Mirren fans have responded to his attitude.
Yeah, I think, first of all, you look at the budget that he's got, they're punching above their weight, so I think you would have to applaud them for that. I think they've played a nice style of football. It's not always going to work for you, but I think you've seen at times they've been very competitive in games. They beat Celtic on their own turf back in September. They've been competitive in games against Rangers too, and I think there's an appeal to the way that they've tried to go about and play. I think it's a good watch. You're not sitting and it's about containing teams or holding the ball and sitting back. He's trying to have a go. He's trying to allow the creative players to go and have an influence in games. I think that's it's the kind of football that people like being part of, and it's certainly the kind of football that people like to watch, as would be reflected in the numbers that they've had this season.
And Ruffy loves the one of their younger players, Mark O'Hara, who's 38.
Has he been nominated for then?
No, but he was. By the way, can I just say something to you? He was interviewed at the PFA Awards, I think, by Kerry or indeed Adam, and you could see he's such a fresh-faced looking kid. I can understand why he was actually jumping in there. I'm thinking he looks about 19. He's got that kind of a Jackie McNamara feel about him, and Brian Laudrup. They haven't aged.
About them. Yeah, I think he's been excellent. I think he's been very consistent over the course of the campaign for St Mirren. Chipped in with a lot of goals too. Hugely influential this term. And I think they'll go. There's no pressure on them tomorrow at Celtic Park. I think they'll go and have a go. Yeah. They could get picked off depending on the kind of mood that Celtic are in. He's right, they could come off in the back of a 4 or a 5-0 hiding, but his attitude is very much like the attitude Ange Postecoglou had when he was going into European football and Champions League football and saying, well, we're taking on Real Madrid, but we want to be brave, we want to go and try and compete. They did for an hour. They ended up on the back of a 3-0 defeat at Celtic Park. However, your own support want to see, can you test yourself against teams that are playing at a higher level than you? How do you fare? And this is where I think you learn quite a bit about the players that you've got. Yeah, a game that I'm really looking forward to, Ruffy, is Hearts against Aberdeen in this battle for third. If Aberdeen, I think winner or draw is enough for them, to be perfectly honest with you. But the Dons under Barry Robson deserve tremendous credit. The way he's managed to galvanise them when others couldn't.
Yeah, and certainly, particularly, I mean, we all talk about the two forwards they've got and they've been fantastic, but I was watching, I think it was the Rangers game, and defensively they're organised now. Defensively they've got a back four who defend properly. They all look as if they know what they're doing. And I think that's where he's got the strength to go forward and win games, you know, because, and the goalkeeper for me is the goalkeeper of the season. I think since he's come back in again, I think he's been sensational.
Kelrus?
Yeah, superb, yep. And obviously they've lost Duke, but we were discussing earlier, I don't know if he's back or whether he's injured or not. But you're right, I think Aberdeen will have the mindset to go there and know that a draw would be good enough. I think that Hearts result last week against St Mirren flattered them a wee bit. They got the penalty late on. You know, I thought St Mirren should justifiably won that. I thought they had a lot of chances. So I don't think Hearts are getting into this game in particularly good form, you know, and I think the fans will put a wee bit of pressure on them if Aberdeen were to score.
Yeah, of course, Stevie Naismith's got to try and impress the home fans. He's got to try and get a win that would certainly maybe force the board's hand into looking at him as a permanent fixture, similar to Barry Robson and what he achieved at Pittodrie. If that happens, I think Stevie Naismith is well aware that he's got a similar job in hand. If he can produce a Barry Robson style to Hearts finish to the season, he could be the permanent man.
Obviously I've known Barry for a long time through our careers and we were international teammates, and I think his players play a lot like he did as a player, and from now being in a similar position, I can understand that it's tough when you want to make change and you've got to get results and you want to do things your way. There's loads of aspects to it that you need to get right, and he's obviously got a lot of them right to go on the run that they did go on.
I'd love to see Stevie Naismith get a hit at it. I think he's a I've got a lot of time for him as a person, but certainly I hope he's got the chance, maybe with a wee bit of experience by his side. Is the job too big for him, Ali, or is he ready?
It's $1 million question, isn't it? And you never know the answer to that until you give him it. I think that so much will come down to how he conducts himself away from the cameras, what you do day to day on the training ground, the kind of atmosphere there is around the dressing room, just what his results are like. I think all managers, whether it's an interim basis or not, live and die by results on the pitch. He'll know that he has to finish the season strongly to be in with a shout of it. You have to look at the club themselves. They'll do their due diligence and cast their net to see what else is about there. But I think if you have the opportunity to audition for the role as he does now, then you want to go and give a fairly compelling argument in your own favour as to why you should get it. But I think he has the credentials to go into a coaching career. Whether or not it's now remains to be seen, but I definitely think he's got that about him.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think that's a chance for a fresh start around Tynecastle, because there was always Craig Levein, and then there was the Robbie Neilson suddenly appearing, and then people still thinking Craig Levein's influence is in Robbie Neilson. So there's a fresh start. There's no Craig Levein era, there's no Robbie Neilson. It's now Stevie Naismith and potentially someone experienced alongside him to it could be an exciting time for them, because he likes playing football on the front foot.
Yeah, well, I'm hearing for some of the Hearts people that I know that they like him. The fans are right behind him. He speaks very well. I think the progression he's made, to where he is just now has been absolutely perfect. I think Stevie Clarke taking him into the Scotland team, the set up there will have a big say in it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Stevie Clarke's chipped his tuppence worth in, to the board to say what they think, what he thinks of him. So I know it sounds stupid, but I think getting into Europe and beating Hibs will just seal it for him.
Yeah, well, it's not stupid at all, by the way. What's unusual is you've got Hearts mates. That's very unusual, Ruffy.
It's actually a guy, I know.
Yeah, so it's not plural. No, right, okay. I'll tell you one thing I don't like, and we've just talked about it earlier, and Scottish football has an unbelievable knack of just constantly working out ways to get negative press. Barry Robson not happy. Aberdeen will get 600 tickets for the game.
I know. I think what you want to be doing is making the game as open, as accessible as possible. I think you want. This is an exciting game, so much at stake. We've been watching this fight for third. I understand why Hearts are doing it. I think they're trying to give themselves the edge by packing out Tynecastle and making it intimidating for Aberdeen to go into. But I think it's a trend that we don't want to see continuing. I think you want to see an equal distribution of tickets. You're never going to get a 50-50 split, but a fair distribution of tickets to make it a theatre, to make it that you have two sets of supporters.
Sell blocks until such times as they say, right, we can't sell any more. Then put a line of stewards, and then Bush, on you go. Seems sensible enough. Motherwell against Ross County. Motherwell sit top of the bottom six, 1 point ahead of Livingston. They've had a couple of wins since the split. Ross County, second bottom, 2 points ahead of Dundee United, one behind Kilmarnock. This has got the makings of a great game.
This is the do or die, isn't it, for Ross County? This is the game. I'm sure Malky will be looking at the other two games that he's got, but if he loses this one, you're running out of time. They'll be buoyant by the result they got last week, and quite rightly so. So they'll go down there with a wee bit of confidence. I mean, Ali's going to disagree with me here, but I think they're fighting for their lives. I think Motherwell are where they are because there's no pressure on them. They might just drop it just a wee bit. So I think Ross County will get something out of the game. I don't think they'll be good enough to beat them, but a point would be good with the next game being a home game.
Stuart Kettlewell reckons Motherwell will be at it.
I don't know if it would be one to cement 7th place. Obviously, another 3 points would help us in that kind of journey of what we want to try and do, which would be to finish the top of the bottom half. I kind of stated that a couple of weeks ago. I knew there was going to be a lot of tough games in amongst that, and this becomes another one.
Yeah, so there might be an incentive for Motherwell to finish, as he says, top of the bottom. But for Ross County, I just think, you know, they'll be looking and saying, right, this game here could be the key to our survival, albeit playoff, or maybe just escape by the skin of their teeth and throw Kilmarnock into it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that without doubt that'll be their mentality. But I have to say, I think Motherwell will win it. I think Stuart Kettlewell, I think, has been impressive since he took over. I think he's been fairly keen on stressing the point that these players aren't on holiday, that it's not time off just yet. I think they'll stay on it. I think it'll be a very difficult place for Ross County to go and try and take anything from. I know they're fighting for their lives. I can't see past Motherwell.
Yeah, Ross County with St Johnstone and Kilmarnock after this, Ruffy. So Ali's fairly confident in Motherwell. Where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I've sat on the fence with this one. I went one each.
Yeah, okay. We shall see. Give us your thoughts on that as well. Dundee United, bottom of the table. They're off to Livingston. Livingston on a poor run. And of course, Livingston now sitting 8th, 1 point behind Motherwell. 3 straight defeats since that win over St Johnstone in April. And Jim Goodwin now at this moment, it's not even squeaky bum time. I can see the trap door opening, and they've got to try and make sure that they avoid it. Can Dundee United get that win? Can they make up for last week in that devastating blow against Ross County?
You know, we've got 3 big games coming up against 3 good teams, but we have had extremely positive results against those 3 teams throughout the course of the season. So that's got to be where our thought processes are. You know, we can't go there and be nervous and be uptight. We have to go there and really put on a good showing and make amends for a poor second 45 last Saturday.
What do you make of them, Ruffy?
Shocking last Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. You know, be pulling his hair out. I mean, his future is based on the next 3 games as well. If he was to stay where he is just now, I can't see him getting the job. So it's a big pressure game for him. I just can't see them turning it around. I think the only plus thing about it is they've got Livingston, who are on free fall, who don't seem to be playing particularly well. It'll be interesting to see what David Martindale does with this game. I think there has to come a time where he has to show the supporters that the people that are leaving are not part of the future. I don't know who he's got in reserve, but I think he's got to start thinking with the team and concentrating on the people who are going to be there for the future rather than the ones that are leaving.
Yeah, and with that in mind, if Jim Goodwin suddenly could get them to playoff and then survival, does he get the job full time?
I think he puts himself in the window for it. I think he definitely puts himself onto a shortlist for it. I think they desperately need stability. I think that, you know, Jack Ross got 2 minutes in the job before being punted out, and then you had Liam Fox. It's been a disastrous campaign for Dundee United.
Yeah.
The premature exit of Ross was stupid at the time and has been framed such in what's followed this season.
It's not just managerial appointments, there's a whole structure of recruitment poor. You know, the whole message to the fans has been fragmented. It's one, you know, blunder after another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they desperately need to get onto a solid foundation. They need to stay up, financially. Yeah. They need to stay in the top flight. And from there, they need to start, I think, a permanent manager, and you have to you have to give it a period of time to get it right. I think you can't expect drastic changes overnight. It's not going to come in the opening few months, but you have to give someone the opportunity to build a team and to build a fairly solid start to a season, and you only do that with a wee bit of security.
Yeah, I want them to stay up, Ruffy. And I know some people will say, you know, you're bang out of order on that, but I want them to stay up because I want Dundee derbies, and I want the spectacle of a really strong league. And if they can get stronger, and if they need a clear out at boardroom level to actually sort out the problems, if they need a clear structure and strategy in place, then so be it. Somebody needs to take the bull by the horns at that club. Another thing I think they should do is actually sit down, whoever's their head of recruitment, and say, right, from now on, no exorbitant wages for players. You know, that you've got to have a sensible approach to this.
No, I think the evidence was there last week. Although they get beat, you know, the supporters turned up, you know, in numbers. You know, the stadium looked absolutely magnificent. I think all the United supporters went along there to help their team. You know, and you don't want a team with that kind of support, you know, falling out of the system and possibly being out for a couple of years. But as you have been talking about there just now, the telling factor is me is Craig Levein getting an interview for that job and I'm refusing it because he didn't like what he was hearing. So there's something happening up there that we obviously are not privy of, and if they get relegated, it'll obviously come out in the wash.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that. Kilmarnock against St Johnstone. If Kelly were to win this, I think St Johnstone are sucked right back into it as well. I still think 36 is just by the skin of their teeth. Even a point more might just be enough to fend everybody else off.
I think St Johnstone are in it. I really do. I've watched them. I've seen a bit of them over recent weeks. I've not been impressed. I think they're utterly toothless up front. They've got nothing. There's just no menace at all. Goals have been a real issue throughout the campaign. I fancy Kilmarnock to win tomorrow. I think Kilmarnock, for all it's been a fairly inconsistent season and they've toiled down at that bottom end, I think they have shown a bit of form on home soil. They've not been able to do it away from home, but they've been fairly robust at home. I think they know the magnitude of the win. I think Derek McInnes is a vastly experienced manager at coping with these kind of scenarios. I think they'll win, and I think St Johnstone are very much in it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because here's Stephen McLean's quote for this game. This is what he had to say. I look at my dressing room and I see Liam Gordon, Andy Considine, Cammy McPherson, Ryan McGowan, Graham Carey and Stevie May. Good experienced pros who know what it's about. They know when the chips are down and they'll roll their sleeves up. I know I've got players in there who are going to come out fighting, and that's what we need. We will be in the Premiership. We will go to Kilmarnock and we are going to win the game. Simple as that. And what will be after that will be fighting talk.
Well, the chips not down last week.
Eh?
Well, the chips not down last week. We know these players were playing, you know, so it never worked then, and I don't think it'll work now. I agree with Ali. I don't think they've got any firepower up front. May's dried up, you know, obviously Nicky Cart's not playing. And all the other teams, likes of Kilmarnock, have got Vassell, they've got strikers, you know, Ross County have got a striker scoring a hat-trick, Motherwell have got Van Veen. They don't have that guy who's going to get them a goal out of nothing. And if they do get beat tomorrow, I agree with Ali, I think they're right in it.
Okay. Partick Thistle United, Clyde against Annan. Annan have got 3-1 lead against Clyde. Partick Thistle against Ayr United, Ruffy. Confident?
No, confident. I think that there's two ways of looking at it. From the Partick Thistle camp, you're getting into the game with momentum, winning. You've got Ayr United who haven't had a game for a couple of weeks, so they'll be saying, oh, our players are rested, any injuries we've got, we're fresh. I don't think there's much between the two teams. Obviously home advantage, you think, would sway it tonight, but I think it'll be I don't think it'll be as many goals as Queen's Park, because I think Ayr United are very good defensively. I do believe we have sold 7,500 for the game, so there's going to be a healthy crowd at the game tonight. So it'll be an exciting game.
Could be the battle of the strikers, because Ayr United have Dipo Akinyemi, and also Partick Thistle have Brian Graham, and he knows the way to goal.
Listen, Chris, he just kept it simple. I'd scored a lot of goals before he came in. It's not really working with the manager that's made me score goals. I've been my own man. I think he's maybe just a year older than me, so there's nothing new. But he just lets me get on with it. He knows he can trust me. I know I can trust him. So,
where's your money, Ali?
I'm going for Thistle.
Yeah.
I for the reasons that you just said, I think they've just hit a bit of form at the right time, scoring goals, a bit of consistency. I think what you saw last Friday night was a very confident team. I just think there's a wee bit of, I was going to say a bit of belief about them, which is there's a bit of conviction about them, but what there also is the echo of COVID. I think what you feel is a team who have got a point to prove. That's what I think you're seeing just now.
Yeah, listen, what a finish to the women's game in Scotland. It is absolutely magnificent. Rangers can retain the SWPL, of course, on Sunday at Ibrox. A win over Glasgow City, we'll do that. A couple, of course, with Celtic dropping points to Hearts. They're neck and neck. Celtic, I think, have one more goal better off. Is that fair? Is it Rangers?
Rangers are one goal better off than Celtic.
Yeah.
If Rangers and Celtic both win, it'll come down to goal difference. Glasgow City are the only team who have a straightforward passage to winning the title. They are currently 2 points clear. If they win at Ibrox, the title is theirs. If Rangers win, they'll still be looking over their shoulder to see what's happening with Celtic and Hearts and what the margin of the victory is, and the same goes for Celtic. I think there is every possibility that the title will be decided on goal difference. If they are neck and neck on goal difference, it will then go to who's scored the most goals. At the minute, that's Celtic, who've scored 2 more than Rangers.
Wow, what a finish that is. You've described it so well. Do you think, Ali, you mentioned to me that you think it's certainly going to be a helicopters changing direction weekend, but do you think Celtic will draft in Chris Sutton for the after-match interview if it doesn't go according to plan and Rangers score a barrel load, just for a kind of a trip down memory lane to annoy everybody?
20 years.
Is that right? Is it 20 years?
2003.
Wow.
Yeah. 6-1 and 4-0. Rangers won 6-1. Celtic won 4-0 and Rangers won it by a goal.
Yes.
That's 2003.
So they'll roll them out.
So I think there's every chance it will come down to goal difference. I think Glasgow City looked like the team to beat for so much of this season. At one point they had a 9-point lead over Rangers. Celtic beat them 4-2 a month ago. And that week then Rangers beat them midweek, and then Celtic beat them in the Scottish Cup, and I just felt it was a fairly seismic week in terms of what it done to the psyche of the team. Even though they rallied a bit after that, they've got back to winning ways. There was another defeat to Celtic, and performances have been poor. I think you can almost sense just a lack of conviction about them going into the final game. We'll see. I do wonder how they might cope with what's expected to be a record home attendance at Ibrox in the women's game, and the same again at Celtic. I think both teams, as it stands just now, have sold in excess of 11,000 tickets apiece. I think the record is 9,553 from that Celtic Park game last week. They're both going to eclipse that, which I think is a fantastic finale for the women's game. I quite liked there was a fairly dry comment about that this week from Leanne Ross, the Glasgow City manager, who kind of would have liked to have known where all those fans were before there was an opportunity for silverware, which I thought was quite amusing. And I think if you were a City fan, you would be maybe a bit irked that going into the finale of the season they're playing in front of very vocal home supporters have had to go to Ibrox and to Celtic Park. I think it's quite a daunting hand to have been given.
Yeah, I like Leanne, but it's supply and demand, it's business economics. The better the product, the more they have to go through. Unfortunately for a lot of these players now, they are the pioneers, at a certain stage in this timeline that's got to take it on to the levels that we know where there'll be full stadiums. It's as simple as that. But the positive is Malky Thompson, the Rangers boss, saying, look at the tickets we're selling for this one.
I think so. I think that 10,000 plus crowd that we're going to get on Sunday will be vocal enough to let us know.
That's fantastic. Over 11,000 Celtic fans, 11,000 Rangers fans. 2 games that everybody will be actually thinking about it and saying 4:10, kick off, let's see how it all unfolds.
What's very interesting is, one, the conclusion to the campaign is obviously intriguing, it's dramatic, loads of interest in that, which I think is fantastic, but also next Sunday then you have Celtic and Rangers going head to head in the Women's Cup final at Hampden. So 22,000 people, 23,000 people will watch these games. Will they also go along to Hampden? I think it would be fantastic to see the National Stadium then get a big
There's 22,000, Ali. And what was the figure I said?
You said?
I said 31. Did you say 30?
I said there'll be 30,000 at Hampden for the Celtic Rangers Women's Cup final. Bonzo and of course Eat the Breed laughed me out of town. We're 8,000 short, Ali. Come on.
No, I think if you got 20, I'd be quite happy with you.
I think people would be delighted.
20,
I think it would be phenomenal for the women's game. I think I'm trying to remember what the figure was off the top of my head at Tynecastle last year. Celtic beat Glasgow City in the Scottish Cup final last season, and if memory serves me correctly, I think it was around the 7,000 mark. I'd have to go back and check it, but I think if you're looking at almost trebling that within a season, it's a phenomenal growth of your product, and it's one that I think it's really key is sustaining that interest. I think it's desperately disappointing that the women's team aren't in the World Cup this July, because I think it would just have generated another level of interest. It would have boosted it again. I think very, very disappointing in that respect. However, you look at the crowds that have been down south, you look at what Arsenal got, sold out the stadium for that semi-final Champions League game. Wembley sold out last weekend for the Women's Cup final. I think Scotland don't have the same population sizes. It's always diminished in terms of what they can do, but I think what you've seen over the last few weeks is an appetite for women's football that's not necessarily been there before. I think lots of that comes down to the fact that it's exciting, that there's a lot going on, and I think there's a parochial element to it. I think when you have Celtic and Rangers involved, I think then there's a different level. You maybe pull in, capture the imagination of supporters that had been fairly indifferent to it at other points, but when there's something on the line and it's intriguing and there's drama involved, then you're seeing people coming out to watch it.
Ali, if there's 30,000 there,
I'll take you out for dinner.
I'm taking Ruffy and I'm taking Tam, and I'm going to sit them down and I'm going to bring in Rose Riley, and I'm going to sit Rose Riley next to me and say, right, absolutely batter these two. Simple as that. And then what do you want for a starter, Rose?
Are Rangers and Celtic allowing Glasgow City and Hearts fans in for the game?
Yeah. Try not to be a noise up with 7 minutes left, Ruffy. The other thing I was going to say to you guys, and every now and then when I read the feed, I try and read out as many people who watch the programme, and I'm so delighted that, you know, a lot of people make some very good points, and thank you for your support. We absolutely love it. There's always, every now and then when I'm reading some of the people who post messages, I always like to sometimes just blank a few, and then I'll give them a mention as time goes on because they annoy the life out of me. Gregor, who's a big Aberdeen fan, loves Aberdeen, and he says, Peter's mate Moisey. You know, and because Gregor likes a wee dig every now and then just to see, and I'm going to talk about my mate Moisey, because quite simply, get ready for it, Gregor, my mate Moisey. I was sitting there on the couch last night and I was absolutely ecstatic. What a brilliant performance from West Ham.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, we always like to see one of our own, and I mean a Scottish guy doing particularly well, particularly, you know, at the club he's at, and I keep saying it all the time, the owners aren't the best owners in the world. He keeps having to prove himself every year in, year out, and he's done it again. So it gives them another dilemma, you know, when he chaps their door for another contract.
Yeah, and just for Gregor, here's my mate Moisey.
You know, I think in football you're always loath to put a title to things, but I think to get to a European final, and let's be fair, last year we got to a semi-final, we came really, really close to getting to a final. So maybe you shouldn't be too surprised. I think I don't know if I quote the right number or not, but I think we've won 15 and drawn 1 in this run, something like that, 14 and 1. We've got one more to go to see if we can win.
Yeah, and just in case you think Scotland is the only crazy country where the bureaucrats make stupid decisions, UEFA have given the West Ham fans 4,890 tickets for a final in Fortuna Stadium in Prague, which only holds just under 20,000. Is there any sense left in football? Honestly? I mean, how am I going to get a ticket for Prague? I'm going to have to go to the press box, Ali.
That's it. I think even for a European final in a stadium that only holds,
it's a shocker,
20,000.
West Ham could take 30, 40,000 on their own.
It's entirely accessible from, you know, Central European country. Like, it's easily accessible for so many people. You think
it's a nonsense.
A 20,000 seater stadium for a European final is not a good look.
Okay, are they going to win against Fiorentina? Yes or no? I'm running out of time. Yes, okay. Europa League as well. Well done to Jose Mourinho. Roma. They're in there, and I
tell you what, all the success he's had, it's never diluted. Did you see him celebrating and stuff last night?
He loves it.
Absolutely, not one shot on target.
And they're playing Seville.
Oh, how many times have they been there?
7.
How many times have they won it? 7, wow.
7 times they've been in the European final. It's unbelievable. Incredible. Okay, that's your football chat for today. Join us tomorrow. Kerry Pollock will be with Ruffy and Alison tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and then later on in the day Ruffy and myself will be there 4 o'clock bringing you the half-time, full-time reports from around the grounds and we'll also have reaction from managers and players as well. Just quickly, Ruffy, the Premier League Player and Manager of the Year has been revealed. Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola, Eddie Howe, Robert De Zerbi, Unai Emery and Marco Silva nominated for Manager of the Year. Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Rashford, Trippier, Kane, all up for the Player of the Year. Give us your choice.
Man City double.
Yeah?
Pep and Haaland.
Pep and Haaland.
Pep and Haaland. Okay, don't think we're going to argue about that. Let's get the answer to the quiz. How many goals has Ryan Jack scored for Rangers in his career? 14.
14 in 7 seasons.
14 was the answer we were looking for, but I think Ruffy hit the nail on the head. He's one of those players, he's not an out-and-out goal-scoring, he's not a goal-scoring midfielder, but he's one of those guys who just goes about his business and tries to do his job effectively. I would have loved Ryan Jack to just have been steering clear of injury for a long run at Rangers, for people to get, you know, a greater feel of how good a player he was, but it didn't happen. He's been curtailed at times, but that's the answer to the competition. Thanks to Ali, who'll keep us right up to date with what's happening in that dramatic finish to the women's football in the SWPL 1. We'll also have reaction right across the weekend. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you'll get all the breaking stories at your fingertips. Thanks for your support. The figures have been in for last month alone. Absolutely sensational. We're getting bigger and better. Terrestrial television, as you know, is absolutely dead in the water. Nobody watches it now. It's on the digital platform, so why not stick with PLZ Soccer and tell your friends as well. From Ali, Ruffy and myself, Peter Martin, to you, we thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button and we'll see you tomorrow.